Welcome and good evening to Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. This is the Deadheads streaming to you live high above the keep in the hot air balloon for the DFK is Dead pre-watch party. Tonight, as always, I have Neindorf with me. Neindorf, how you doing?
I'm excited. Well, maybe not with that intro, but I'm otherwise excited, I guess.
Yeah, Renpen saying I'm not dead yet. We are bringing
Bring out your dead.
bring out your dead. There's so many fun memes that we could explore, but we don't have the time or the energy for that. And of course, we have Mr. Alpha Police, the Alpha Gestapo himself, Bolon. How you doing?
Hello, hello. Loving the Bring Out Your Dead reference just because it's such a quality reference.
Hey,
Hey,
let's do a
Matt.
giveaway. First person who puts the name of that movie in wins a, I don't know, something.
Ooh, there we go.
Wins us something.
Um,
I like it. Bring
it's
out your
just
Okay,
dead.
here. We got a regular agility stone.
It's just a flesh wound.
All
uh,
right, anyway,
aside
sorry.
from that, I do feel like there's the very relevant question of like what kind of natural disasters do a hot air balloon protect you from?
Not
Uh,
much. It's they're not very resilient.
Uh, the half a mile an hour lava flow is one of them.
Yeah. All right.
you just
So
gotta
we
stay in
got.
the air until it cools.
I have
Yeah.
I have Tune Fed in first in YouTube chat with Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You are correct. Sticks intern. I have you coming in at just almost there
All
second.
right.
All
Tune
right.
fed, ping me and I'll send you a regular swiftness stone that we've got on hand here.
Yeah. Okay. Of course. Very fitting. Question of the day is: does DFK die in 1 hour? It's a bit of a joke question of the day. Um, Neindorf, we're gonna kind of we'll talk a little bit about we don't have to tell quite as I'll call it professional as a line as the DeFi Kingdoms proper team does, and so we'll get we'll let some analysis air here, but we're gonna having Bolon on is a special treat, and I have a fun game kind of queued up for us that happened well before the drama hit a few weeks ago. So I want to get to uh, does this happen before or after PvP? And so we're going to play that fun game with Bolon and see if we can sneak any alpha from the alpha police. And I'm going to claim that we're
Oh,
just asking for clarification on what's already been mentioned in the AMA. So,
all right.
um,
I like it.
so that's a game
I
we'll
don't know
play
if I
here.
like it, but let's go.
That's a game we'll play in a little bit. And I also want to talk about some really fun development that we've been working on as well, Neindorf. So let's
Sure.
kick it off with I'll have you mention what are some of the things that you've been working on developing. We just released a new version of the bot, which auto starts the hunts for us. So kind of take us away with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've kind of been on a little bit of a summer break here. I haven't gotten a whole lot accomplished lately. I do have a list here that's growing it. But yeah, that's the big one recently. And honestly, it's kind of funny. I think since I released that, I'm probably doing twice as many hunts on average and getting one quarter as many drops. So yeah, it's great.
And
But
so,
no,
and you've also
honestly, it's
updated
great because
the
they,
UI too. You've cleaned
yeah,
up the
that's,
UI.
oh yeah, totally forgot about that. That's right. We kind of added a tabbed interface so that, um, because what we realized is if you have some auto leveling config and you got like 400 heroes with configurations set up, it can be a lot of scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So we put some tabs in there. That way you can kind of see what you're doing. Um, it just a better organizational thing, really. But yeah, adding the hunts is honestly the only real feature we've added this iteration. Um, but yeah, I love it because I can just log into the game into DFK proper and then boom, there they are. The biggest reason I like it is because I forget who goes with who all the time. And
Absolutely.
so now I don't have to remember who goes with who. They're just there and they're ready to play. And then I can just focus on the boars.
And
Not the
with
birds very much, mostly the boars for
yeah,
me. I'm kind of lazy.
and with so many heroes going at once, like for me, like especially when you're like stampotting them and like trying to remember who goes with who, and then also trying to balance your levels because you don't want to bring,
Yes.
like two level 18s and a level 16. That'll be inefficient. And so trying to balance that out has been very helpful for me. And I finally now have a couple Gen Zeros that are level 20. So
Oh, that's awesome.
really excited about that. I have two, with another archer close on the way. And this archer that I got up thanks to hunting and your bot helping me hunt, I have dexterity as my highest stat, and my second archer, I believe I'll be able to get dexterity as my highest stat as well once I hit level 20, and I'll start being able to pump out some monster heroes, I believe.
Oh yeah. Another thing I was gonna comment too in the future on the hunts columns there when you have or the rows rather for the bot, I want to put a link so that eventually you can click it and it'll take you to the combat prep page.
Hmm.
Preload those three heroes and their average level and kind of show you here's their combat stats. So that's something that I've got on my short list that I want to start working on. And I know, Raph, you found a few bugs with the combat prep page. Some of the detail isn't necessarily quite right yet, especially with some of the accessories. So I'll work that through too, so we can get a little bit better mix and match. Hey, what's it like if I put a gore blade on this hero, or whatnot, and then you can kind of see exactly what they have applied at that moment, also. So
Yeah. And Kevin Porter asking, what is the level 20 stat bonus? The level 20 stat bonus, and Bolon, Neindorf, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it looks at the second highest stat that you have on your hero, and it gives you +1 starting stat point. And so a nice way to kind of, if you are taking, assuming you're leveling up your two Gen Zeros, focusing on their primary stat that relates to the Codex, and then the secondary stat that relates to the Codex. If you have two Gen Zeros that are summoning together and you're going for the same class, you can get +2 on that secondary stat, which is pretty neat.
yeah, I mean, like if with take your archer example, that'd be pretty cool if you manage to get luck or strength as your second. I mean, that can
Yeah.
get you off to those 10 out of 10s have a head start, no doubt.
Yeah, I think, they'll be able to compete. You throw a lesser stone on every summon, or that's what I'm planning on doing at that point. I mean, they'll compete with some strong dark summon heroes just if you accidentally luck into, a high rarity hero. I mean, I'll be very happy with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so next piece, Bolon, you and Mr. Zipper on a chat with us. So you know that we've been working on this one for a long time, and I'm ready to give a sneak peek to this. This has been kind of my secret AI project. I've been using Claude AI, one of the constant tabs that I have going on. I could reintroduce AI after dark if our listeners are interested in that, but I've been looking for ways to capture metadata. And Neindorf and I, if you've been tuning into our streams, we've been on this for a long time. And so here is the first kind of sneak peek of what we have for metadata going on. And so what I did here is I pulled from the blockchain the last month and a half, I think, or maybe this was the last 2 months of data across all heroes in all classes, and I'm starting to pull some percentages that we can involve to help inform the community on what people are using, why they're using it, and what's giving you the better win rates. And of course, this is going to translate to PvP in the future, which is what we're really excited and focused about. And so here, what we're looking at is an all classes hunt dashboard. There's been 38,000 hunts over this period of time, an average win rate, and this is boar hunts and bad mother cluckers, of almost 71%, an average level of 14.6, and it shows you the accessories that people are bringing. And then I have a drop down menu that lets you look at the classes individually, all the classes that are being brought. And so, just looking at the all hunts dashboard, there is 77% of the time there's an archer brought into a game, which I think is pretty interesting. Archers are definitely meta. When you look at that compared to the warrior at 39%, we knew archers were meta, but I think this is like pretty obvious. And then looking at, people are still doing 53% of their hunts without weapons. and 82% of their hunts without armor, which doesn't surprise me because armor drops are a little more new. So we're continuing to try to bring more information like this to you guys. Send us some DMs. Write in some suggestions on maybe like the website suggestion requests on what you would like to see next. This is all information that we're excited to continue to bring you. And so then what I've also done, and I need someone with like a statistics major to stat check some of this stuff, but I've also put a specific win rate on all the items. And so if you look at this, the win rate is 71% right now, but if you are bringing a wishbone breastplate, your win rate is 76%. Now, that there's a lot of conflating variables in there. It could be that someone who is, arming up their heroes is more likely to care about this. And so it's not, foolproof entirely of like, X armor equals win. And I think that will really shine through with PvP. But I think it's just a neat little feature that we're trying to add to help people understand what the difference is. And do items matter? I would say yeah. I think when you're not bringing any armor, a 69.8% win rate, like a 1% difference, like that probably matters on average. I would agree with that. So I'll pick on archers here for a second, and you can see that a Gorbo is being brought 28% of the time, and the win rate of a Gorbo is 78%, for example. Now that feels, compared to the archer pure win rate of 69%. I don't know, Bolon, what do you think? Do you think that feels right to you?
I mean, I'm not surprised by the Gorbo usage, that's for sure. Um, if I'm surprised by it, honestly, I would have said potentially higher. But I also don't know if there's enough Gorbos out there to make that percentage too much higher. But I mean, I think people have seen, like, even with these first two hunts, that, like, yes, they are doable without equipment. They're a hell of a lot easier with it, though. And I think we'll continue to see that kind of standard evolve. Like, I mean, obviously, PvP is a whole different ballgame. If your opponent has equipment and you don't, guess who has the advantage?
Mm-hmm.
But, even within PvE, like, there has to be equipment before we can really make you need equipment. Otherwise, we're just building unbeatable fights,
Right.
which would be fun, to be fair. I wanted to go that route, but I was overruled. But especially as more PvE content comes out, like, it's only gonna get, well, aside from the scrub fights, which obviously will be lower level and therefore easier, it's only gonna get harder when we talk about these like boss fight void hunt style matches. And so I think we'll continue to see those numbers increase where people are starting to realize that, they're going to need that equipment.
I like your point about Gorbos, especially because I don't know. I've done a couple thousand hunts and I've only ever found one bow, and I think I only own two because of that exact reason. And I hunt, I don't know, 6 or 7 teams. So to your point, some of those numbers, there is a bigger story at play there. There's a couple people that do hoard a lot of equipment, especially bows. I feel like I've been seeing getting scooped up, kind of in prep for probably PvP. But I think that is definitely driving down those numbers. The win rate though, yeah, the Gorbo, the damage boost. If you got good decks, I mean, it's hard to top, honestly.
For sure. Well, it's an interesting equalizer too. Uh, equipment can also let you bring in heroes that may not be your best heroes. So maybe you've got a team of legendaries that you're running with no equipment, but then you've got a team of commons or uncommons that have equipment to make them kind of more equal to those legendaries. And obviously, that's assuming that your heroes have leveled up well in the first place on those legendaries. But
Right. And that's something that I find myself making a weird mistake where I feel like I put my equipment on my best heroes. And so then I have like half of my fights are super easy, and the other half is like my rares that aren't great. and then I kind of struggle a little bit. I'm like, I don't know why I do this to myself, but it's fun to just crush the boars like with those good heroes with equipment. It's super enjoyable.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so one funny thing that as you guys were talking, I was just like kind of zipping through the classes here that even I haven't noticed until just now. Priests have the highest win rate out of the playable classes right now.
Oh, that's crazy. It's
Which
like survivability, right?
right, it's a war of attrition. I think that's something that's like kind of a little sneaky. And I think that's where once we start doing PvP, like this analysis is going to get really fun for a lot of
And
us.
it needs big data too. So to your point, if you there's some anomalies in the data, it might take a little while for this data like this to become useful once PvP launches. Like we need what, 1,000 matches or something,
Yep.
say, until we can kind of start getting some real feedback, I would say.
Yeah. And you're looking at like 6,000 of the 30,000 hunts that I'm looking at. And so they're only being used 20% of the time, too,
Oh
which
wow.
that kind
I
of.
use a priest every single time, not gonna lie.
Yeah. Every time, 60% of the time it works every time. 20% of the time. So yeah,
Uh,
and their average level is higher too. So a lot of interesting things here. So we got a lot of work to go in order to get this. I would call my analysis here is rough and dirty. Neindorf makes it very professional. It makes sure that it is free of almost all errors before publishing it out to the community. So we still have a lot of collaboration that we need to do in order to get this ready to go. But we just wanted to get the community excited about something that we can analyze and something to look forward to once PvP comes out. And we are thinking about how do we capture ability information. That's something that there's some technical hurdles right now, and we're trying to gently push the team as as often as they listen to us still. So, and Bolon and Mr. Zipper, I mean, have truly been advocates for us inside the DFK team. So thank you, Bolon and Mr. Zipper for that, or Dr. Zipper for that.
And thanks
right.
to y'all for putting this kind of stuff together because it is really cool and it's something that we were hoping would be put together, right? Like I know people have asked if we were going to put something like this out, and it's like, well, theoretically we could, but probably not anytime soon. But this is something perfect for you guys are perfect for this as well, to really like build out this dashboard and have something really cool where people can see the meta. And I think the PVE data is really interesting, especially for people who are looking at getting into hunts, or those who are just trying to up their game, like myself, because I suck. But especially when it comes to PvP, like you just have so much meta shifting there, and so to be able to look and see, like, okay, this is what this is the team comp that has the best win rate, or these three players who have insane win rates run these comps.
Yeah.
Like that's just really cool information. And like, I've mentioned many times at this point over the years, but I'm a League of Legends nerd, but I suck at TFT. I don't do auto chess, and quite frankly, they just change it too often, and I don't care enough to keep up. So ultimately, I end up every time I go to play TFT, I just Google the meta guide for this season and
Mm-hmm.
then pick a team comp and go for it because that's my best bet. And so having that data available for people, I think is really exciting. I'm excited for it. I think it's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you. Let's go on to our next agenda topic. Um, we'll kind of poke at this throughout the night. But when roadmap, and so
Uh,
we've been. I feel I absolutely have some sympathy for you, Bolon, and the team. I feel like it's a bit of, and Dreamer alluded to this in the last two AMAs, where it's kind of like a bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And there was some response to, there's videos coming out hyping up PvP, and then which we like, and then it's like, well, let's not hear tomorrow. So I certainly understand the predicament that you guys are in, and I hope that I do believe that the community that's here would react positively to a roadmap, even if it was a roadmap that, didn't have full accuracy. And so this is a little of me advocating for all of us to say, is there a chance that we could bring more of that roadmap back? That's a little more of like these features are coming in this order. Loose timelines. I know Neindorf and I in the professional world, we often get held accountable to timelines, which we don't like, but it's there, and it exists, and I at least want to make sure, and I'm sure you guys know this already, but your customers are asking for it. So when roadmap?
Well, I mean, technically we have a roadmap. It's just a very high level roadmap.
Yeah.
But no, so I think as far as like getting into the more specifics of the short-term roadmap, which I think you all know what's on that roadmap, or at least, well, actually, to be fair, you only know some of what's on that roadmap. But we got a couple of surprises up our sleeves. But outside of that, it's fair to say that currently yet you don't know when. That is actually something that we do plan on addressing more of. I can't say necessarily that we are going to give exact dates in the short term, but I do think that we will start being a little clearer. And part of that too, which we discussed in this last AMA, was that we were also waiting on some stuff from the Meta side with the chain. They were doing some upgrades to the chain. Originally we were going to try to utilize Eigenlayer, and then Meta said, never mind, we're going to do it ourselves. And so actually, for those of you that may not have seen it, they put out a tweet earlier today, which I am almost positive I retweeted. If not, I meant to, and I will. But that basically kind of goes over all of those changes that they just made, which we gave a high level on Thursday, but obviously it was not our news to give either. But that really opens our door. And so, now it's much more our side, whereas previously it was kind of both sides. But that also gives us a little more flexibility to be a little more transparent and start talking about some expectations, because that is, a tricky part as well. We don't want to talk about time expectations when some of them are outside of our control. But at this point, we should be pretty good on bringing it all back to our side, which means that we can start being a little more loose-lipped, a little bit.
All right. Well, I like that, and that kind of segues me nicely into the Metis partnership. What's going well? Help me understand a little bit. You guys talked about things are changing, and one of the ways that things are changing, which is pretty awesome, is that you guys are able to. There was like an addendum to the deal where you're getting increased money to help them build out their tech stack. Help me kind of understand some more of like what's happening here. What does that mean for you guys as a team? I'll leave it there.
You're talking about like the second part of the grant?
Yeah.
Okay. So actually that is for us building additional DFK features.
Okay.
So when we very first kind of went through everything with them, we had a goal for what we wanted PvP to be, and we had ideas of things that would also go really well with PvP. And so, part of the original agreement was, dependent on some of their planned changes, which is fine because they were going to do them. So it worked out well. But now that they have made those changes, they actually made them so much crazier than we ever expected them to be, which is phenomenal, crazy good. It's absolutely insane. And so it really opened the door for us to build out a more full, all around PvP experience. So we're going to be announcing some new companion features that go along with PvP. that I think will be really exciting. And that's essentially what kind of inspired the second part of the grant. So like one of those that we already mentioned was there is the meditation circle. So like with our plans for PvP, we always wanted a way for people to be able to level up their hero without having to bridge their hero back. But we were trying to figure out, do we need to have a call on Metis and then actually run it on DFK chain for cost purposes and then feed the response back? You know, how do we want to make that work? And with the changes that they've done, it just becomes unnecessary. We can just put the meditation circle on Metis, which is great for us, great for Metis, great for you guys. Like it's just such a massive win across the board. And so we had a couple other ideas for some complementary features, and we had talked to Metis about them and said, look, you know, it really just depends on how good these upgrades are. And they were like, okay, well, how good do you need them to be? And so, uh,
Right.
you know, I've said it in Discord before, and I'm sure we've all said it live at this point, but the desire to collaborate and to work together and to find solutions is phenomenal. You know, Metis took our feedback, they listened to us. You know, they gave us a couple possible scenarios with their upgrades so that we could give them feedback on them, and not just us. They're talking to, you know, other DApps on their chain as well, and that's what they should do. Like that's best case for everybody. But it's just really great to see a chain team that wants to know how to help the projects on their chain. And it's very similar to what we've seen with Ava Labs and what we've seen with Clayton. So, like, that's what we look for when we look for these chain partners. I will say, because I know you're both more technically inclined as well, have you seen what the actual changes are or what their gas formula is specifically?
I have not
I
personally.
briefly looked at it. I saw that it was super cheap, is what I would say.
Yeah.
So essentially, is that what drives a lot of this? Is that now that costs can come significantly down, options go significantly up? I mean, costs is in per transaction.
Cost per transaction, as well as I mean, the block size honestly wasn't a huge blocker for us. Like they had it at
Right.
25
That's
million, like
Clayton.
the DFK chain is. So like, you know, we can deal with that. They did greatly, like significantly shorten their finality as well, which is really good. The block time being shorter is
Right.
super for us as well. But yeah, so I've been trying to avoid saying it because I didn't know if it was going to be public or not, but they put it out in a tweet, so now I assume I can. But the way that their gas price works is very interesting to me, uh, because it is dynamic, but it is the number 50 divided by the Metis price in US dollars. So essentially, if Metis is $50, Gwei is 1. If Metis is $100, Gwei is 0.5. If it's $25, it's 2. So it's very interesting because it kind of makes it like almost a fixed gas price, because depending on the value of the token, that's what actually sets what the Gwei is. So I think it's a really interesting solution that gives Metis a lot of room to grow, like as a token. Not saying it's going to, no clue, NFA, whatever else I have to disclaim, but it gives it that flexibility without impacting gas prices, which is really cool.
So, so I mean, I guess my fear with something like that then is what happens to those? Every chain eventually starts their gas super cheap, and then inevitably the bots and you know, the spam comes in, and the
Right.
transaction prices have to be upped so that they can't afford to do these like free transactions essentially.
Right.
So, like, what stops that sort of system in this dilemma here where you've got a fixed gas price, but someone can go ahead and launch a whole bunch. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. So I know that that was something that they were thinking about as well, because we talked to him about it actually a little bit. And so first and foremost, like I think that kind of went into their calculation of like what number do we need to set it to be divided by. And then that's the other side of it too, is
Okay.
like realistically that could technically speaking be flexible, right? So you know, if you change that top 50, the is that the numerator? God, it's been too long since I've done a math class. Whew. Uh, if if you change that 50 to 100, then gas doubles. So like I think there's still flexibility for protections there, and particularly like obviously going off the rails here, just throwing out a wild scenario. Please, nobody read into this or quote it back to me later. But if Metis went down to like $1, right, then their GUI is going to be 50. So their GUI is now really high, even though from a gas perspective, it's still comparable. So I think that's kind of what they were looking at in terms of balance. And I mean, that's we've done very similar. We upped our GUI from 1 to 3. And realistically, that like there's such a narrow window of if you can just tip over the right point, it becomes not worth it for a lot of the like spam stuff.
Totally true. Yeah.
And I mean, that's what we found. We were at one GUI and running 4 million transactions a day, and then went to 3 and dropped to like 700,000. We were like, okay, we like that's much healthier.
Fixed
And
it.
so, it's just finding that right little sweet spot right there.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that helps a lot. And I kind of figured that was the case. So now that the floodgates for you know transaction volume or speed is open, I mean, what's to stop a full round from popping up in metas?
I mean, I I
Is there
guess
anything that's in the way of that?
it could be possible, yeah. And that's, obviously right now we're focused on Coliseum. Like we're not trying to go too crazy, too fast.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, just from a technical standpoint, it does greatly change that equation. And maybe the Coliseum continues to evolve. Maybe it doesn't. Well, we'll see how things go. And the Coliseum's kind of an interesting like test case as our first feature on Metis. So that's really cool in itself as well. But yeah, I mean, it like I said, like it very much changes the landscape because it is just absolutely phenomenal. Like it's
I
so much more than
I
what we
with
were
the rest
hoping
of
for.
chat are aping into Bolon's giggling, gigglish apprehension around maybe.
Oh,
I'm
yep. Ren
listen.
Pen saying that new realm has been confirmed.
Yes, that's our
Those
goal.
conversations have not even started yet.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, from a technical standpoint, theoretically, it could now be possible. Yes.
And that was my question, exactly.
All right. So we've talked about, and we do have a hard stop in 22 minutes. When the clock strikes midnight, we turn into pumpkins here. So I think I just actually saw a notification on my phone that there's a Sticks intern stream in
Yep.
22 minutes, which I think is going to be like a watch party, which I will absolutely be joining if it is. All right. So we talked through the Metis partnership on chain versus off chain. So I know Neindorf, you had some questions about this. Like as you guys are developing, what's going on and how do you build a PvP game where you're balancing, obviously the transactions for the Coliseum need to happen on chain, but a lot of the game is being off chain. Can you help us kind of break into this a little bit? I know you mentioned some stuff on Sergeant's stream a couple weeks ago about not the development for PvP isn't really being held back by the changes that Metis is trying to make right now. Am I understanding that correctly, or could you help me understand this correctly?
Could you repeat the last 30 seconds of that? Sorry.
Nah, yeah, that's all right. So my it's either this is my understanding or help correct my understanding.
Yeah.
The development that's going on for PvP, how much of it is on chain versus off chain development, and can still the wheels be turning in the background, kind of independent of the changes that Metis is making? You alluded to, I believe, something as of the such when you were on Sergeant's Pod a couple weeks ago. So help me kind of understand, like, how is the development continuing to progress, even though like changes are happening to where the Coliseum is going to go?
Yeah, for sure. So the main factor is just that PvP is both on and off chain. So there's some stuff even prior to the changes on chain that we could start messing with. We could start preparing some contracts. Like there was some prep work that could be done. Now that the changes are made, it really opens the door for like deploying, testing, all of the really fun stuff, right? But PvP itself happens off chain. Uh, and then even outside of PvP itself happening off chain, you also have all of the UI elements, right? Like how do you pick your heroes? How do you challenge somebody? How do you accept that challenge? So there's no shortage of work that we could go ahead and get rolling on in the meantime, which we have. So I don't remember exactly how much has been said in the past. I started to say something and now I'm not because I don't remember if we've said it. But we definitely had no shortage of things that we could go ahead and get started on. As far as like the combat engine itself goes, not to mention that, or not to mention within the combat engine, like more features. I know Hubert's talked a little bit about traits and pet bonuses recently. Like, there's always things that we can be doing and plenty of things that tie into PvP, but even specifically PvP, you've got the combat engine, you've got, the entire like user experience to build out. And then you also have the on-chain side, the contracts, the like different contract calls, all that stuff. So yeah, we've been working on PvP since we announced the partnership in the first place.
All right, you brought me to the game that I've been excited to play called Before PvP or After PvP. And so all you have to do is confirm what's been already announced. And so, all right, so we'll start. We'll start with an easy one here, and I have them all just over here on the column of before PvP, and then based on what you say, we'll confirm, and then we'll kind of move our text boxes around. So, will people ape into broken mechanics before PvP or after PvP? Remember, I'm throwing you a lob ball here at the start.
Thank you. Thank you for starting with an easy one. Definitely before they've already been doing it.
Okay, good. All right.
I think they'll do it afterwards too.
Yeah,
they already stop.
It'll never stop. It's forever.
Constant aping.
Hero skills before PvP, after PvP.
It's gonna be interesting.
All right. Putting it in the middle.
Undecided.
Undecided. All right. Metis Marketplace. Selling potions, hero items, things like that.
I would imagine that would probably be after. I don't think we would start launching too much prior. I wouldn't think so. That one I'm actually not 100% sure on though, to be honest.
All right. Well,
does after include with?
Yes.
Kind of
sure.
Before,
yeah. Okay.
I feel like it could be with or after. I don't know that we would do it before. Interesting.
Okay.
Throw me some curveballs here.
Okay, so here we're gonna at PvP. We're gonna make some quick text changes. So instead of before and after, before and at PvP. That makes more sense.
Well, some of them could be after too, to be fair.
Right.
Oh no, we expect everything to be done with PvP.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, maybe we have to go back. All right, at/after.
There we go. I like that one.
All right, let me adjust that here. At/after. This is great. Okay, so
Perfect.
Next one, advanced class codex. Is that going to happen before or at/after?
I feel like I can confidently put that one after.
Okay.
You said advanced?
Yeah, the advanced class codex. It was
still got 6 basics to go.
I know, but it was teased in the last AMA that Workhorse was working on one. So just trying to.
Well, yeah, we got to get them ready. That doesn't mean they're going to get implemented yet.
All right. Okay. We know where it's at. That's good. It's way after. So we're gonna put it all the way over here.
Oh, okay. We got a way
All right,
after
yeah,
him.
I'm building the roadmap whether Bolon likes it or not.
We'll get better at
That's
this, I
been the
promise.
goal of this entire podcast. All right, fighting modes, and by this I mean that there's going to be more information around how are heroes going to fight. So Hubert mentioned that there could be like stats based fighting mode where it's like you can fight with your heroes that are 400 stats and below in this tournament type.
Right, right.
And I guess this is where I really should make a distinction of more like, is this at or is this after PvP launch?
Yeah, it'd be weird if that one was before.
All right.
Uh,
It's not before. Okay, we've narrowed it down.
I would say that it is either at or after.
Okay, in the middle. Interesting. Pet bonuses. Also, kind of same bucket. Combat bonuses.
That one's going to be an interesting one as well. I would say, I feel like Hubert gave y'all something to go off of in this last AMA on this one too.
He sure did, yeah. I mean, we're chomping at the bit now, so it sounds like
I'm gonna say, I mean, it's definitely not. Well, out of these categories, I would put it in at or after.
Okay, that's fair. That's bad hosting by me, giving you.
This is a very, very difficult game.
Okay, now here's my favorite question of all: October 1st. Is this before PvP or is this at and after PvP? I'll let you plead the fifth on this one.
Yeah,
I'm having too much fun.
That was a good one, though. I gotta say, I gotta give a shout out to your fellow ADFK member, Franz, dropped in chat to put the presidential election on this game as well.
Okay, that's good. I didn't see that. Yeah.
Hey, that actually makes the question a little easier.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you want to answer that one?
No.
All right, we'll let you plead the fifth.
I was just giving him a shout out for the question. That was it.
All right, so we had fun with our little roadmap game here. This one's undecided. October 1st is undecided. It has been noted. All right, so the rest of the agenda that we need to get to, Neindorf, we have only 12 minutes left. Community help. So kind of going away from the jokes for a moment, and I've sent you some DMs here on this one, Bolon. What ways can the community help once we launch PvP? We're going to be looking for an influx in players. Obviously, a lot of the community is going to be rallying with their guilds, their guides, their YouTube videos, their support like that. What does community help look like to you as community manager? It kind of like, and we're talking ideal kind of pie in the sky. Is it community helping organize tournaments? What does it look like to you?
Yeah, more than anything else, content, and content. Stream it, show it, tweet it, put together a quick guide for somebody to follow. Really, like, so much of it is getting it in front of people and letting them see what they are missing out on, and then helping them figure out how to get into it and get started. So we're gonna have a whole new not realm, place on a new chain. I don't know what to call it, mini realm, I don't know. But we're gonna have a whole new like map on a new chain. We're gonna have a new audience that we're targeting. Those people are all going to be trying to figure out if they want to get in and how they get in. And so the more content that not only us but all of you guys produce, the better it is. Like, I've said it many times and I will keep saying it. I can preach DFK all day long, and I mean I guess I do. But I work here. Like, they're like, if you go on Amazon and are looking at ordering something and you're looking at the reviews and they're all from employees of the company that makes the product, do you care about those reviews? Probably less. So, the more content that we have, the more we can show like the strength of our community, the fact that our community is enjoying this game and loving this game. Like that's what makes it impactful. It's not me telling people that the project I work for is great. It's you guys telling them that the project that you play and care about is great.
Love it. That's a great explanation.
I mean, honestly, like I know we've talked about it a little bit before, but we've had a few events now, like Decentral Miami, whenever the hell that was, a couple years ago now, I don't remember. ETH Denver has been that way kind of every time. There's another event that I'm blanking on, but like the events where we have like you guys show up are so much more impactful every single time because it's I can tell you all about it and I can tell you why I think you should care. Talk to this guy. He's just here because he wants to be. Like he's
a
here
rabid
because
fan.
he wants to
Yeah.
be. So yeah, that is so impactful, and I think people really underestimate it. And I mean that's honestly like, if you look at 2021, like that's all it was. It was all organic.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to give any shout outs to upcoming events where you imagine that being helpful?
Permissionless.
Permissionless.
Permissionless will be in October. I should know the dates, but I don't. I want to say it's like the 7th through the 11th or 8th through 11th, or I'm just way off base. I don't remember anymore. Here, hang on, I'll look. Okay, it should be the 9th through the 11th. Sorry, I was trying to
9th
make it a
through the
longer
11th.
event.
And is that the one that's in Salt Lake City this year?
That is in Salt Lake City, yes.
Okay, that's on my agenda as I'd love to go if the stars align. So I will keep that one in mind. That'll be exciting. How, I unfortunately I've not had a chance to join in an event. Like what kind of exposure do you expect at something like Permissionless? At that point, Trump will no longer be campaigning, so you may not get the chance to do an autograph. Sorry, not trying to make this political, but
yes. Sorry, that just wiped my brain out. Yes. So, Permissionless should be a lot of fun. It's in Salt Lake City. We have several team members who like are in Utah. I know several of us that are not in Utah are planning on going as well. So we're planning on being there kind of in force, and having a lot of fun and having a really good time with it. I've actually been to Permissionless once before, and it was a really good event. But it's interesting with crypto events, and it's something that's pretty widely discussed by those of us that like do crypto events, to booth or not to booth. Because it's an interesting question. If you have a booth, then you have all your signage and you have people walking by you. But to be honest, like a lot of the events that we've been to, we've found we're almost more effective without one.
Boots on the ground.
Oh yeah, boots on the ground, and we're all decked out in DFK gear, and we're fortunate enough to have a level of brand recognition that we can walk around and just talk to people and get stopped and talk to people and talk to the people who are running different booths. And we've almost found that having us kind of freed up to move throughout the conference has really been in many cases almost more, or in many cases more successful, just because the drawback of a booth is well, I guess depending on how many people you have there, to be fair, but the drawback of a booth can be that you get tied to one location. And so you need people to be coming by your booth, and if they aren't, if for whatever reason, if you're down in a back alley corner, then you're not as involved and as effective, versus being able to move around, wander around, and just make those connections. And so it's been very interesting, but I think permissionless is a really good opportunity. With everything that we've got coming up here, I think it puts us in a really, really cool place to talk to people about something that we have never been able to talk to people about before, which is PvP. So I think we're going to be able to have a lot of fun there, and I think with as much of our team as will be there, I think we're going to have a blast, and we would love to see as many of you guys as possible. It really is just super cool to actually get to meet people in person, put faces to names. Well, put faces to fake names. Uh, Also, by the way, if we're at a conference and you walk up to me and you introduce yourself with your real name and not your Discord handle, I don't know who you are. Uh,
Right.
but yeah, we love to get to meet you guys and actually like shake your hand, talk to you in person. And so that should be really cool. And we've got some other stuff in the works for permissionless that we'll be talking about in the near future, but not just yet.
Other stuff in the works. Huh. I
So
will.
before or after PvP?
Right. Back to the October 1st comment. Okay,
I guess
well,
we'll find out.
I realize here towards the end of our podcast that Bolon has been giving longer answers to stall for time because he has a hard cutoff in 4 minutes. So clever, very clever. This is very well done by you, sir. All joking aside, I had a few more topics that I wanted to get to, but I want to be respectful of your time constraints tonight. So thank you very much for coming on with us, having fun with the game that we're playing. And I look forward to the many great things to come. And what a great pitch to kind of end on, which is love to see everyone out in permissionless in October. Hopefully, well, you've said there's going to be exciting information by that point in time, and so that's something that I know the listeners who tuned in today, they can be really excited about that. So thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you to all our listeners out there. And with that, we're going to end the podcast. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.